Well, the Energy Ministry is now confirmed. It's opened, well, it's called Bid Window 6. It's a strange name, I understand that. What it means is that people from independent power producers can now put in bids to generate renewable electricity and add that power to the grid. The bid window would allow another 2,600 megawatts to be added to the grid from renewable power. The previous bid window 5, as I understand it, hasn't quite reached financial closure. To put it another way, Eskom needs to produce around 40,000 megawatts. That's what we sort of use as a country. This would be another 2,600 megawatts to add to the grid. These are rough estimates. Jacob Mbele is the Deputy Director General in the Energy Department. Jacob, good afternoon to you. Thank you for your time. How long is this new bid window open for? When do you think we may actually get some more watts in the system as a result of it?
Morning. Good afternoon, Stephen, and good afternoon to the viewers. We expect the first megawatts from this bid window to come online from around early 2024. You'd understand that these utility scale size power plants have got a bit of a long lead time. You're looking at anything from about 24 months before the first power kicks in, or the first power gets produced into the grid. But as you correctly mentioned, this is one of the big windows amongst the other big windows that the department has undertaken in the past. There's close to about 2,000 megawatts from bid window 4 that is currently producing power into the grid as at December. Bid window 5, we intend to have financial close at the end of this month, and we expecting some of the projects from the bid window as well to start putting some of the power into the grid as early as late 2023. So this is not going to happen overnight. Obviously, these projects have to be constructed, and it takes a bit of time.
As I understand it, the wind lobby, if I can call it that, people who actually build the massive wind turbines that generate electricity, say once the finances are sorted out, once the planning permission has been received, they can build one and get power into the grid in about 18 months. So I mean, your time is exactly correct. The big variable is probably the administration, and I hate to say this, but it's probably maybe the bureaucracy, but probably the financing. Do you think you'll be able to stick to the timetable?
Look, I mean, when we put this bid out, they make commitments, and we move on the basis of commitments that they had made at the point of being approved, like with any other bid or tender. The specification is put out, you make proposals, you commit in line with what we asked for, and we set the timelines on the basis that, you had promised to comply with certain things. So at this point, we believe that the bidders should be ready to close as planned. Obviously, if there are issues, they would approach us, and we'll have to look at each case on its own merit as to what are the other issues. I think what is important to us is that, I mean, every time we have load shedding, the first thing you hear from Eskom is that they need the megawatts in the grids, as in yesterday. So I think while there is obviously pressure on the government to move with speed and issue these bid windows, I think the same is an expectation from government, from the bidders, to obviously keep to the committed timelines.
There's a strong push, as you say, to get more renewables in the system, especially because the risk of load shedding is very, very much with us. There's some people who say that the government and the Energy Department could be moving a lot faster to get more renewable power in the system with more IPPs more quickly. I mean, how do you respond to that?
Look, Stephen, I think a lot of the people, either out of a choice, because many of the commentators that I've seen commenting around these points understand the behind-the-scenes processes that we have to undertake. You will understand that because we don't have a deregulated market, a competitively open market, the programs are built around Eskom as the buyer, and the department as a procurer. So obviously there are processes that we undertake between ourselves, Eskom and National Treasury, to make sure that at the end of the day, whatever Eskom commits to, it's all above board. So those processes do take time, because remember, Eskom is an independent entity, so they have to go through their governance processes and they have to satisfy themselves. So the speed is also a function of how we arrange, and that's why there is work that is underway to make sure that we relook at the structure of the industry to make sure that it's a competitive and deregulated market where probably things will happen with speed, because then the entities involved in that setup will be properly, I would say, authorized to be able to operate in that kind of setup. So the current setup, I think it has to be understood in the current context of Eskom as a monopoly.
I mean, it would seem to me that what you've just suggested is that the current setup doesn't work. The current setup is entirely the responsibility of the Energy Ministry. I understand that Eskom is a difficult beast, I get that. But it is the Energy Ministry, it's up to you to fix it. Are you really moving with all speed? You'll know the claims against the minister. I mean, they're political claims as well. You're not a politician, so I'm not going to put them directly to you. But let me put it to you in a very broad sense. Is the Energy Department in the Republic of South Africa keen on using enough renewable energy to take us away from load shedding, or are you still much more interested in gas?
I think the integrated resource should be a reference point for all of us, I mean, to engage in that debate. If you look at the IRP, the answer is straightforward. I mean, the biggest allocation for new generation capacity is renewables. So there is no debate. And again, if you look at the IRP, the other technologies come in because of the system requirements. You know, it's not about preferring this over the other. So to answer your question direct, the issue of whether the department is pro renewables or not, I think it's answered in the integrated resource plan that was developed and taken to cabinet by the department under obviously the leadership of Minister Mantashe.
I mean, I accept that, but since our integrated resource plan was published, the world has changed. I mean, renewables get cheaper and cheaper. Battery storage gets more and more reliable. It gets easier. It gets cheaper, too, to do it en masse. I realize that there still needs to be a little bit of work. I realize there's an argument about baseload. You and I can have that argument if you like. The point is that I suspect that we might find that already the IRPs become outdated. That would be the argument.
I don't know, Stephen. I think that the reference point for outdated when you talk to a long-term plan, for me, is debatable. If you take the IRP, I think, and you read it, there is a clear statement in the IRP that indicated that if you look at the current system that we have, which consists of the power plants from Eskom, because what you're doing, remember, you're building on top of the base that is there. If you look at that system and you put additional capacity on top of what is there, the IRP is very clear that the analysis that was done indicate that the energy mix does not change much. All it does, it shows that you need more of renewables and gas. And remember, renewables on their own will not necessarily be able to provide you the necessary energy all the time. You also need capacity. And that's where other technologies such as storage and gas come in. I mean, you mentioned battery storage. I think one of the things that we normally caution against is that we should not repeat, or we should be cautious when we procure technologies that are still expensive, because we don't want to repeat the mistakes, or not necessarily mistakes, but we need to learn from the lessons from Bidwido 1 to 3, where we started with higher prices. You can imagine if the volumes from those programs were much higher, we would be talking a different story today. So you are also limited in terms of the technologies that you can introduce at the beginning when you look at their price. I
accept that, but you would be aware of the International Institute for Sustainable Development report of last week, which, I mean, shows how much money we could waste by producing a gas industry. I mean, people in your department, your minister, want us to use gas to generate electricity. I mean, that would be surely a much greater risk than investing in new technology.
Stephen, unfortunately, I've not had the opportunity to read the report. It becomes tricky to really comment on the report. I've just seen the reporting on the report, not necessarily read the report itself. But my experience as an energy planner is that I'm aware of the fact that all these reports are based on a number of assumptions. And until you go and you interrogate the assumptions, it becomes really disingenuous to start, running with the conclusions. So I think once we've read the report, we understood the assumptions that were made in the context of where we are as South Africa, then one can then have an opinion. So at this stage, I'm unable to really give an opinion on the report because I've not read it.